We cannot share the story in full because, well, it's not our story to tell. A facet of traditional Tlingit culture is the concept of Attu, a precious property owned by a clan, passed down from generation to generation. Attu can be physical, tangible objects, but they can also be songs, stories and names like the name Chief Shakes, which is passed on to no fewer than 7 leaders of this clan. The story of the sea creature is clan property, just as much as this house's. And so it is a gift for us to receive, but also to respect that it is not ours to retell. Now we cannot believe our luck. But by pure random chance, the seabird pulled into Wrangell port on an historic day. Across the world, indigenous groups struggle with a loss of cultural identity, especially when youth lose interest in their ancestral roots. Here in Southeast Alaska, an uplifting movement pushes the needle in the other direction. Every other year, a gathering of Native peoples from across Southeast Alaska takes place in Juneau since its first iteration in 1982. It has grown and fueled cultural revival efforts across the region. In an incredible show of grit, groups from across the Southeast are making their way to celebration the way their ancestors would have, by traditional canoe and hand-carved paddle. We just happened to be in town on the day that 2 groups arrive. In Wrangell, one of them all the way from the village of Casson, 100 miles away. They are being welcomed to Wrangell to celebrate and rest for the night before heading back out tomorrow. From here, Juneau is 150-mile journey through wind, rain and powerful seas. The canoes are pulled up out of the water for safekeeping when they head back out tomorrow. They won't be alone. A canoe from Ranga will set out with them, adding to a growing fleet of colorful vessels, powered by determination to keep a culture alive and thriving. We feel so lucky and honored to witness this moment, when the community here in Wrangell, in preparation for continuing the journey onwards, together. Today is the day. It is almost certain that we will see whales. We are cruising northward, right where Frederick Sound meets Stevens Passage. Every summer, this area serves as a rich feeding ground for seabirds and marine mammals, whales among them. More elusive are their cousins. So you can imagine our delight when orcas arrive on the scene. Brilliant, graceful, and deadly. Orcas are the master hunters of the sea, highly intelligent and social. They live in matriarchal societies where language, behavior, and hunting practices are passed down by the matriarch to her children and grandchildren. Orcas do have language. Each pod exhibits its own unique collection of calls, just like its own dialect. Pods that share similar calls can be further grouped into clans, larger communities defined by shared acoustic traditions. 3 types of orcas live in the North Pacific. Residents feed primarily on fish and stay close to home, frequenting the same geographic area. Transients roam widely along the coast and hunt. Mostly marine mammals and offshores are rarely seen, living more in the open ocean, feeding on schooling fish and perhaps even sharks. After 4 days of intense natural beauty, it's hard to imagine what could top all of that. But this place is about to rise to the challenge. We are entering Tracy RM, a 32-mile fjord reaching deep into the Boundary Ranges. Less than a mile in width, the walls of Tracy Fjord close in on either side, and they are breathtaking. But even tough crystal and rock cannot withstand the partnership between water ice, wind and time. Erosion and plant life work away at this landscape, shaping it into its current form. And we see some of the most beautiful U-shaped valleys. The classic sign that glaciers were the primary force carving out this land. And they're not all gone. Evidence of their presence begins to show itself as we inch our way farther up the arm. And there it is. If you had the chance to polar plunge into glacial waters, would you do it? Well, on this day, 15 folks aboard the Seabird decide that their answer is yes. Who's up first? Ready. Ready. And it's amazing how a few short days of shared experiences can bring a set of strangers together and then send them off as friends. It's our last night on the Seabird, and we are all tired but hearts full. The poetry of it almost seems too much. But just as the night falls, a visitor appears at the bow. The underside of a humpback's tail or fluke has distinct patterns and scars, as unique as our fingerprints are to us. So identifying are these markings that they can be used to track and monitor the migration patterns of individual whales. That's how we know that tonight we are being sent off by Hokulele, a male who spends his summers here in the Inside Passage and his winters off the western coast of Maui. He is at least in his 20s, possibly older. The first recorded sighting of him was here in the Inside Passage in 2004. If the land continues to provide for him, he could live a long life. Humpbacks can live from 45 to 100 years. Perhaps it's the soft of the boat, or maybe our excited voices every time he surfaces, but he just stays with us for a while. In no rush, lazily diving and circling the bow, before finally heading off into the night and leaving us with one final beautiful memory.